everyone, I'm Gina, and I'm back in my mother's kitchen to make a special Mother's Day dessert, mango flan. Since the flan needs to cook in a water bath, the first thing I'm going to do is fill this roasting pan with about an inch of water and place it in the oven for the water to heat up as the oven comes to temperature. Next, I'm going to make the caramel sauce. For that, I'm using 3/4 cups of granulated sugar, and to that I'm going to add 1/4 cup of water. The trick to making this caramel sauce is that you do not stir the sugar and the water together. You just want to let the sugar dissolve and come to a boil. And when it starts to turn color is when you pick the pan up and swirl to continue that caramelizing process. You want your caramel sauce to be a medium amber color. The darker it gets, the more bitter it's going to taste, but you don't want it to be too light either. It's about a honey color right now, which is still too light, but it should start to get darker in just a few minutes. This is the color that we're looking for, that medium amber color. And now I'm going to bring this over and pour it into a 9-inch round baking pan. I'm going to pour the sauce right into the center of the pan, and it should start to spread out. And once it's in the pan, you want to swirl it quickly so that it gets to all of the edges before it starts to harden. Once the sugar is in the pan, it will level off on its own. So if you weren't able to swirl it around to all of the edges, that's okay. Once the flan goes into the oven and it starts to heat up, the caramel at the bottom will spread out. To make the custard, I am using 4 whole eggs, and I'm actually just going to lightly whisk it together. I'm mixing this with a whisk and not a hand mixer or putting it into a blender, because I want to mix the eggs without creating too much air. To this, I'm going to add 1 can of condensed milk. And now I'm going to add 1 cup of mango pulp. This is canned mango pulp. You can use fresh mango puree as well. Mix these two together until it's well blended. Now add 1 can of evaporated milk, 1/2 teaspoon cardamom powder, and 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. I'm not adding any additional sugar to this because there's plenty of sweetness from the condensed milk and the mango puree. And then you'll also have that bit of sweetness from the caramel sauce, so you don't need to add any additional sweetness to this dessert. Now I'm ready to pour the custard into the pan. But before I do that, I'm actually going to use a strainer to catch any bits of egg white or mango pulp that didn't get blended. And don't worry if you start hearing some cracking noises. That's just the cold custard hitting the hard caramel. You want to bake the flan in the oven for 50 to 55 minutes. Once the flan comes out of the oven, let it cool on a wire rack until it comes to room temperature, and then refrigerate it for at least 2 hours so that it can firm up, or you can even leave it in overnight. One quick tip: you know that the flan is ready when you shake it and there's just a bit of jiggle right in the center. That's when you know it's done. The flan was refrigerated overnight, which I highly recommend that you do, or at least chill it for 2 to 3 hours so that it can fully set. Now we're going to flip the flan. So in order to do that, use a thin knife or an icing spatula like this one, and run it around the sides of the pan to loosen it. Gently shake to loosen the sides. You want to place a large plate over the cake pan. I'm using one with raised edges. Serve and enjoy.